Okay, all right, 5-0 trophy. That was unexpected, but that was pretty nice, especially right after the disappointing 2-3. I mean, man, I never quite had this much success with these companionless versions, but that was, I mean, I don't want to say that was easy per se, but it felt like we had the tools at all times. That was not bad, not bad at all. Yeah, like what can I say? Um, So that's kind of what you give up in a way. You give up some raw mid-range muscle in the form of Obosh, and in exchange, you get quite a bit of tools. Ratchet Bomb being like one of them. Very very useful card, of course. Of course, um, Blaststone kind of emulates this, but as we could see, Ratchet Bomb on 0 was a lifesaver against Batterskull. Oh my goodness, that was a pivotal moment where we could have punted. Like this is another universe where we were kicking ourselves for blowing that. Once we drew the Pithing Needle off the top, but man, let's pat ourselves on the back that we were patient, and there wasn't a lot of downside to taking one more hit from that Batterskull token, and by doing so, when we drew the Pithing Needle, we made it so that if they returned it to their hand in response to the needle, we could then deal with the token on the way down. Whereas if we blew it first, they could return it to their hand. We wouldn't have the Ratchet Bomb because it was already blown the last turn. And sure, they wouldn't be able to return it in the future, but they'd still have a 4/4 lifelink, and that easily could have made the difference because they did put up quite a bit of resistance until their flood started setting in. Anyway, yeah. So what is there to say? I mean, I will say main deck Abrade. This was I was not expecting this to be this good. Actually, kind of almost halfway in, maybe 2 matches in. Actually, I started like thinking, well, if I lose this, I don't even know if I'm going to run this same list back because I'm like, I don't know about this main deck Abrade. So I started tinkering with like moving this to the sideboard, going Ratchet Bomb down to 3, which I think we can justify because Brittle Effigy can also help with the pro-red creatures, and then just putting Lava Darts in the main. So I thought, like, yeah, Lava Dart's been a proven excellent commodity. So I thought, yeah, that might be a better tact, and maybe we don't need the needles if we've got a lot of extra speed from the Lava Darts. So anyway, that's what I was kind of thinking. But then suddenly, Abrade dealt with artifacts. I mean, of course, it always deals with creatures, but it dealt with artifacts really cleanly. That was really surprising. Um, yeah, I mean, like especially in that Taxes game, that's the only reason we won. It's the only reason we won game 1, really, is because of main deck Abrade, and we would have just got juked game 2 from the Flicker Wisp and getting mana screwed. So like literally Abrade saved us, and now I'm wondering, like, actually I did like that idea of playing the main deck. Playing Lava Dart again, and of course the thing about Lava Dart is once I go with Lava Dart, I do start to think maybe Spike Field Hazard is better, and then I start to wonder. But think here. I mean, I suppose I could still kind of emulate Lava Dart by taking out 4 mountains and putting Spike Field Hazard. I could actually. Man, the mana was so clean that game though that like I'm a little bit hesitant to experiment with that. But Spike Field Hazard is somewhat free in that. I mean, sure, it's not 24 lands proper, but like, I mean, you can still think of it like our regular 16 untapped lands if you count Shatterskull Smashing as an untapped land. I don't know though. I mean, do we really want main deck Abrade that bad? We might. So we've got 2 ways to go. I will say this much. I think I want to go down to 3 Ratchet Bombs, and then we have 2 choices. We can either play... I think Phyrexian Revoker is actually better for 2 reasons. First of all, as you can see, in basically every single matchup we brought Pithing Needle against, they didn't have much creature removal anyway, so it's basically just an extra 2/1 body. Second reason, if you go back to the first Obosh League match where we lost to that inverter deck, remember how we were wondering, like, man, if we had like Phyrexian Revoker, we could name Pentad Prism or like one of those Mana Rock effects so that they couldn't just drop them and then get around Blood Moon the same turn. That's something Phyrexian Revoker can do that Pithing Needle can't. Lands in theory are covered from Blood Moon, so we don't necessarily need, to like shut off, lands that have activated abilities. But this can shut off, mana abilities preemptively for a lot of different stuff. So, oh yeah, also it can block pro-red creatures or attack into pro-red creatures, which can be very nice. We've got pro-red really covered actually in this particular if we go down this road. But the main reason actually that came to my mind is that like against Blue Moon, for example, even if a Needle effect doesn't actually do much, we could always take out the Abrades, assuming they don't have Shatterskull as their win con, in which case Abrade may actually be the best option. But if not, we can take Abrade out to play Phyrexian Revoker, and we can take out Blood Moon, because they're a Blood Moon deck too, to play Relic of Progenitus, and then voila, we've got, yeah. So I will say also, Shatterskull Smashing really surprised me with how much I actually played it as a spell. Makes me wonder if I really need a Spikefield Hazard, because I think we almost always play that as a land anyway, and it's not a particularly good land early, and it's not a particularly good spell late in the game. Most of the time we play it as a land early. There could be some exceptions if we're particularly flooded, but yeah. Now the only thing though that I miss about this way to go is I like the raw speed of having Lava Dart in the deck. I mean, especially since against Burn, we only win against Burn by racing them basically. On the other hand, Lava Dart is particularly terrible at dealing with Burn's creatures, especially Eidolon, but even Goblin Guide and Swiftspear, it's just very mediocre because you have to sacrifice a land to be able to deal with them. So in theory, it's great against Burn because it can help race. But it can also, it's a double-edged sword. It can be good, but it can also be very bad at removing their creatures, in which case Abrade costs one more, but it does just cleanly deal with them and you don't have to lose a land. So it's not actually 100% clear that Lava Dart's better than Abrade in the Burn matchup. It is better against most combo, but of course the theory is if we play Phyrexian Revoker in the sideboard, it could shore up some of the combo matchups, like Belcher, which I think has a harder time winning on turn 2 without Simian Spirit Guide. Although I'm sure it could by just chaining together multiple rituals, so maybe that's wishful thinking. I don't see Belcher as much anymore anyway. So I think I'm actually going to go down this road. The main deck, Abrade, once again, really surprised me. I mean, really, really surprised me with how functional it was. I suppose another option available to us is to play Phyrexian Revoker in the main, but I think Abrade synergizes with the deck better because it's another way to trigger Prowess. Of course, it might be dead. It is possible. It could rot in our hand. Yeah, it could rot in our hand, but it could also be so good. I think most of the blue-white base decks, blue-white X decks, I think are packing Stoneforge lately. So Abrade, as you can see, is so clutch, and especially in the main against those decks. Yeah, I think I'm gonna run this back. Now the question then is, do we also try Spikefield Hazard? And I think the answer is I'm gonna try it. I think the answer is I'm gonna try it. This could end up being very, very poor, but I think next time we'll try it, and if I'm literally never playing it as Spikefield Hazard, then there's some consideration to just playing land. On the other hand, this does create tokens with Seasoned Pyromancer, so that is nice. It's also more ways to deal with mana dorks on turn 1. It's not as explosive as It's not as explosive as Lava Dart, but Lava Dart can't exactly take a land slot, and I'm liking 24 lands. This also makes us incredibly spell dense. I mean, look at this. We've only got 12 actual mountains now, and we've got 48 spells. So now I definitely don't feel bad about not having Light Up the Stage or any other card draw besides Seasoned Pyromancer, and I guess technically Abbot, because when you're this spell dense, yeah, the danger of flooding is actually not that bad. Yeah, Spikefield Hazard still can be good. It can also just pump the team later in the game. even if a land, even if like even if the 1 damage isn't that useful. Can still help tag Croxa. Can still help tag Mourncoil Engine. It has a lot of utility. It can deal with mana dorks. With 24 lands, it is possible we could curve out anyway, even effectively. Using a land as a spell early in the game is definitely possible. We have done it actually in the past. There has been some situations where we've played Spikefield Hazard early, and it hasn't necessarily hurt us. Let's see, this also makes our curve a little bit smoother because we've got 16 1-drops if you count Spikefield Hazard as a 1-drop, and then we've got 16 2-drops if you count Bonecrusher Stomp effect as a 2-drop, and then we've got 12 3-drops, 4 Blood Moons, 4 Seasoned Pyromancers, and then 4 actual Giants, or 16 I guess if you count the Valakut as a 3-drop. I count it more as a land, but like, actually that's kind of smooth actually. 16 1-drops, 16 2-drops, 16 3-drops, 24 lands. Of course some of these like double up on the curve. They can be either one on the curve, but like actually there's something kind of elegant about that. The mana was so smooth that I'm hesitant to kind of mess with what was working. But the good thing is if we test Spikefield Hazard, it's really going to stick out to us whether it was good or not. Whereas if we just test it without it, it's not going to be clear necessarily where Spikefield would have been better. Yeah, because it'll always not. I mean, we could always play like lands with different art to like to imagine what it would have been like if it was Spikefield Hazard, but that never gives us as good of a feeling as just playing Spikefield Hazard because number one, it doesn't give us. We don't actually get to see what happens if we play it as a burn spell, and also like if this ever comes into play tapped, it really sticks in our memory, so it gives us a much better impression. Yeah, I know I'm hesitant to mess with what is working, but I do like having 12 answers to a 1 toughness mana dork on turn 1. I do like being incredibly spell dense. I do like having more instant speed removal, like against Heliod. I like being able to have another spell to leave up to deal with Spike Feeder. Yeah, or with Inkmoth Nexus. There is actually a lot to like about playing Spikefield Hazard, and it's pretty free because unlike Lava Dart, it can take up a land slot and not a spell slot. And we still have 16 lands that come into play untapped if you count Shatterskull as a untapped land. If you count it as a tap land, though, it's in some matchups like Burn and Shadow, that's effectively 12 tap lands. That's a lot. I don't know. Yeah, I'm actually kind of I'm also wondering about the merits of just forgetting about these Revoker type creatures, or these needle effects rather, and just maybe going with the Lava Dirt strategy again. Well, no, not going with that. Sorry. Yeah, see, this is the problem. Like if I go with Dragon's Claw here instead of Friction Revoker, then I'm back to the problem of not necessarily having something to bring in every matchup. I suppose I could bring Dragon's Claw in against Blue Moon, but that's really not. They don't really care that much about our life gain. But burning us out is actually one of their win cons, though. But it's not like the main win con. Well, maybe we'll try this. But there is definitely some consideration to maybe. Yeah, and I think I would have to, in order to have all these effects that I like, I would have to play Dragon's Claw in the SB, but then we miss out on how good those needle effects were. I mean, and oh my goodness, were they? Revoker, yeah, is just so much more versatile. Like I said, it's excellent at it shuts down basically everything Needle does, but more, because we do have Blood Moon to cover our the land effects that we want to shut down. It can shut off. I mean, yeah, like it's a 2/1 body. It can block and attack. It can block Pro-Red creatures and attack into Pro-Red creatures. And yeah, I mean, oh yeah, and it can replace other cards that are possibly otherwise dead, because it's at least a 2/1 body. There's a lot to like about Revoker. Yeah, I mean, Burn is all over the place, but it's not like completely one-sided in the meta. And we did, I think, yeah, we did beat Burn, I think, 2-0 this league. Wow, that definitely, that was some good luck right there. Hey, you know, and with 7 effects that can deal with pro-red creatures, at least we're not as soft to core Firewalker. Spikefield Hazard slows us down, but it also potentially allows us to race more with additional prowess triggers. You know, I guess we'll see. We'll see how this works, but there's a lot to like. There's a lot to like about. Yeah, there's a lot to like about. I think being so spell dense, and the main deck of Braids once again. Really surprised. Really was not expecting these to be so good. Yeah, I guess until next time. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. You know, subscribe if you like this content. I'm really trying to develop the ultimate mono red. You could call it aggro, but mono red mid-range / aggro. You know, that's not necessarily burn. Red deck wins. You know, as you can see here, red deck wins. Red deck wins was actually always my favorite mono red archetype. Actually, even more so than straight burn. I just kind of liked, you know, kind of like having a mix of burn spells and creatures, and you know. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. But all right, till next time. Nice, sweet that we got the 5-0. All right.